mom played tennis, volleyball. My dad played semi-pro basketball. I had uncles that played professionally. I had uncles that played for the Globetrotters. We had, family members playing professional football. So for me, it was definitely something that was in the family. Family get-togethers, cousins, and everybody. We played against each other. We competed. The family competition might be stiffer than any other competition I faced, all through my career. Collecting cards, I did collect baseball and football, but basketball was the main thing that I liked. So I remember there were no basketball cards. Topps made a set in 1958, 61, 62, somewhere in there. Fleer made a set, and then they were gone again. And so I remember, I think I was 8 years old, and basketball cards. Oh yeah, they were back, right? And we know the reason they came back. A guy named Lou Alcindor. For you younger folks, that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I was in LA. I knew people that had played at UCLA, so I needed Lou Alcindor cards. Got to play basketball in LA, high school ball in LA. I did well enough to earn a scholarship, made that decision to go to Stanford, which was a solid decision for me because it definitely helped me in my life after basketball. The basketball career was over, so I started focusing on my art. I have this degree from Stanford, but the degree was in economics. I'm not a suit or tie guy, I really didn't go in the office. A buddy of mine owned a comic book store, in Palo Alto, so I started working in the comic book store and working on my art. And Donruss had these Diamond Kings. And I looked at them and I appreciated Perez's art, but I kept thinking, if I'm a kid, I'd want something different. Athletes, in the 80s were different in terms of what they represented in terms of pop culture. They started to become our superstars. But the artwork that was representing those athletes still was artwork from the 50s. So if you look at what was being done, you had kind of a headshot and then a couple of action shots that were kind of collaged together, and that was considered sports art. And if you go back to my comic book days, I said, you know what, every athlete should be treated like a comic book superhero. So I called the style sports fantasy, and I started painting images that imagined the athletes in a way that I thought their fans saw them. So hence the Dwight Gooden, Flamethrower was the name of the painting. What I did was I sent the image along with my idea of what art on cards should be. I sent it to Topps, I sent it to Donruss, and I sent it to Fleer. And that was that. Nothing happened. 2 years later, I get a call from a VP at Fleer, and he goes, hey, I found this. Fleer had been sold, and he found it in the desk of his predecessor. He said, I kind of like these. Let's work something out where you'll do these for us. So that's what led to it, and he came up with the name Provisions, and that's where we ended up. So that's how that first set of black bordered Provisions came about. I picked the athletes, I designed the products. Basically they gave me free reign to do whatever I wanted to do, select the athletes, come up with the images, come up with the themes, name the pieces, and design the cards. That's kind of where it led, and then they were received pretty well. So they said, hey, you do this for football? I said, sure. So then did the same thing with football, and then we did the same thing with basketball. The Gooden piece stands out for me because that was the first, and that was the one that got it started. So that was an important piece to me. Michael Jordan was the first basketball piece I did. At the time I did it, he was on his way to being that iconic figure. That piece was done before Space Jam. People would always come up to me and they go, oh, you did that? I said, no, Space Jam didn't exist when I did that. So this is the original for that Michael Jordan Fleer card. If you get in close, you'll see all of the, after I paint it, I'll hand paint it, and then I'll airbrush over it, and then I'll go back in and paint the details in. So that's where you're gonna see all the little white highlights and stuff. That's all hand painted. And then the airbrush is used to, create these nice flows. You'll also notice the kind of the glow around him. Again, that's me masking. Like I said, I have to cut into the board very delicately, and then I create a mask, and then I paint around that. So everything where you see a change of color had to be cut and masked. That's the way all of these are done. It was something new. right? The idea of insert cards was a very new concept. Fleer wanted a more high-end product. And so, on the initial Ultra product line, I basically introduced them to the concept of being able to use computer and computer technology. And again, this is still very early computer technology. What you can do with computer graphics, what you could do, with textures and style and a lot of things like that. So there were a number of things that, we were responsible for kind of introducing not only to Fleer, but also into the hobby. After the card stuff, I took a little bit of a hiatus from doing art. We ended up in a deal down at Universal. So I was, creating content for, movies and film and television. After that, we ended up moving into video games. So working for, EA and Sony and all of them as art director, creative director, creating products for those folks. For the last really couple of years, I started getting back into it, working on the Small Stars, which were the, line of collectible figures that people have seen that people like a lot. We had the 12-inch versions have been out for the last 5 years. And this year we came out with the 6-inch versions, the Small Stars Minis. See that package in there? So what that is, inside that box, you will get one or two, depending on where you get it from, of our mini prints. And I believe there are 10 different versions of the mini prints. So right now, the early ones, the test versions, have this black border that you see that I'm holding here. People were buying these, but they weren't opening them. Because again, there's nothing to tell you that those are in there, and I did that on purpose. And so the people that are opening them are in for a little pleasant surprise. Beckett starts grading these bad boys, then you're gonna have something. I'm having fun again, creating images that tell stories and hoping that I don't have to edit myself too much. You ask about my collecting. This, most people don't know this exists. And most people don't know that, nobody knows I have it except for one person. In the box, that's an 86 Fleer set, right? Difference here, guys, is every single card in this box is authenticated and autographed by the player. So it's a complete set, stickers and all, of 86 Fleer with every single card signed. And these signatures are all from the 80s. Now the key cards you're going to want to see, there's the Jordan, right? And there's the Jordan sticker.